Hey folks, welcome to yet another edition of Smarter Money Matters with the Wealth Doctor. That's me, Jeff Camarda, joined by super certified financial planner Anna Wunderlich, and my son and protege, a licensed investment advisor, Dylan Camarda. So thank you so much for watching. Today's longer topic is going to be finding smart advisors that you can trust. And actually, this has become my kind of my life's academic work. As some of you know, I've got a PhD in financial and retirement planning. My dissertation was on advisor training and ethics and misconduct and kind of how to establish quality, and alignment of interest of advisors. And I've written a number of academic papers. I'll mention this one a little bit, Badges of Misconduct, which was published in the Journal of Financial Regulation, how to avoid abusive financial advisors. And coming from the commission world, as I did, I began as a young stockbroker in New York in the 80s, and has spent a lot of time as a commission broker herself with a major brokerage house. Fortunately, Dylan hasn't been tainted by the commission tar brush. But a lot of folks don't understand there really is a difference of industries. And so let's start with you, Anna. Tell about, from your perspective, the difference between a fee-only fiduciary shop like us and your former employer, who will remain nameless for litigation control purposes, that kind of is a mixed bag.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest difference with a fee-only firm like Camarda is, the client is the number one priority all of the time, right? Everything we do is for the client. When I was at a brokerage house working, there was a lot of different interests that we were looking at, interests of the company, different ways we were paid for different products. It's a lot messier, and it's a lot harder to maintain that fiduciary standard in an environment when, there's a lot of different, eggs in the basket that you're trying to take care of, right? You're trying to take care of the company, you're trying to take care of the clients and yourself and how you're paid. Where here, it's just direct. The client is the number one priority. That's
a really good point there. So at a brokerage house, which is where I started as well, the technical term for a broker is broker-dealer. You may have heard that before, and a lot of people don't appreciate when you hear broker-dealer, it's the same relationship as card dealer. And most of us, I don't think, would expect the card dealer to look out for our best interests. And a lot of investment financial product is sold on a markup basis. Bonds, for instance, there's an inside price. If I'm a broker and I go to my trading department and they will, offer me a wholesale price on a bond at, say, $1,000, I'm just making the numbers up to make a point, and then maybe I can mark it up as much as $1,100. So you're buying a bond that I got $100 commission on, that I paid, kind of got wholesale from my trading department for $1,000, and then when you go to sell it, maybe my trading department is willing to pay $950 for it, and I can mark it down from there. So okay, now you bought it for $1,100, you want to sell it tomorrow, I can get $950 wholesale, and maybe I give you $900 for it, and I make that $50 in between. I'm not sure if you were dealing with individual bonds in the past, but that's kind of how it operates. And this is beneath the radar of most investors. You really have to read a lot of fine print. You don't even get paper anymore, so you don't click on the link and there's like dozens or hundreds of pages of legalese. Dylan, I know that, in your work with a lot of investors, many new to the firm, you frequently come across clients that have relationships that are not fee-only advisors. What's your surmise on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Many folks, since it's really hard to spot, they either have a strict broker license or worse, they have both hats. So it's really easy for someone to think they're getting a fiduciary service when they have both a fiduciary license and a broker license. They can gain your trust with that and then later switch hats and sell you high commission products. That's a really big thing that a lot of people just have it fly under the radar. And due to that, a lot of people think their advisor has their best interests at heart when maybe he's selling you,
or she
is selling you products that you you don't know that they're in your best interest.
That's a really good point, though. In fact, I wrote an article when I used to write an article on advanced wealth for Forbes, Forbes.com, which is still searchable. And the name of that article was "Why Fiduciary is Still a Four-Letter Word." And I strongly advise you to look it up and read it. It's pretty short and pretty simple to understand. But there are three different types of advisors in this country that deal in securities, right? There are folks that are like us, that have an investment advisor's license, that are regulated under the Investment Advisors Act of 1940. The old word for us used to be investment counsel, like legal counsel. And then there are brokers, the commission salespeople, that are regulated for the 1932, I think, Securities Act and 33 Securities Exchange Act as basically commission salespeople or broker dealers, right? And the third kind is folks, as Dylan alluded to, that we call two-hat advisors that are both. They have a fiduciary license, they also have a commission licenses. And if you go to a resource that's maintained by the regulators called the FINRA, but the resource is called BrokerCheck, brokercheck.com, you put in somebody's name and firm, and it will tell you, if you look at my Forbes article, this is really easy to understand, it'll tell you, do they have a broker license or be a B, or the investment advisor will say IA, or maybe they have both. To the commission folks, I guess and a lot of people even think, oh, I don't care what the commission is, so long as I'm making money, but it can add up to be a lot. I mean, many times the total commission costs are much greater than the fees we charge. The only difference is, we're upfront, we're sort of transparent. We tell you what the fees are. The commission costs can be pretty hard to spot sometimes. But at least you know it's commission. But the ones that Dylan was alluding to have both. And they can say, oh yeah, I'm a fiduciary, right?
Yep.
And they are, but then once you become comfortable with the relationship, they can switch hats and put on a commission hat. Have you encountered that, Anna, in any of your work?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely encountered that, and I've also encountered clients, in the past that were maybe sold or put into a certain type of product by a two-hat advisor that wasn't necessarily the best fit for them. And again, they thought they were working with a fiduciary, but that advisor switched hats and then sold them something that maybe, wasn't in their best interest.
That probably they weren't even aware of.
Exactly.
And here's a true story. There's, we did a seminar a few years ago, and a lady came in, I'll call her Jane, and I said, Jane, one of the differences with Camarda is that, we're fiduciaries. And she goes, well, my advisor is a fiduciary. And I said, that's interesting. Let me look at your statements. And she showed me statements for a major broker-dealer. And I said, well, this is a brokerage house. They make most of their money on markups, and trading securities and commissions and so forth. And she said, well, no, not my guy. He says he's a fiduciary. So I said, let me look at your statements. And on the statements, I saw $1 million in an annuity, commissionable annuity product. And I said, Jane, this is, I estimate based on this type of annuity that the commission was something like $80,000. You put $1 million and instantly you have $920. The rest is evaporated basically in the broker's pocket as their commission. She said, oh no, something must be wrong. Would you call him? So I agreed to call him. I'll call him Russ. And I said, Russ, I'm here with Jane, and she thinks you're a fiduciary. And she said, oh, I am. I've got a Series 65 license. I'm a licensed fiduciary. But don't you take commissions? You're with XYZ firm, it's a commission shop. No, not for her. Always have to put the client's interest first. And I said, don't you get commissions on anything? No. I said, well, Russ, what about this annuity? And he said, oh, except for that. He actually said that. That's a true story. And Jane, do you think Jane knew? She was livid, that there was a commission there and $80,000 of money just evaporated. So this kind of happens all the time. Like I said, it's worth taking a look at that Forbes article. There's also, one of the things that I would suggest, and would be happy to send it to you. I wrote my last book a couple of years ago, The Financial Storm Warning for Investors. But there is a chapter in here, finding advisors, exactly what's called the Holy Grail, screening for smart advisors that you can trust. And we have a report that we'd be happy to send you that's just that chapter, and then there's also a scorecard in the back, and go through and kind of self-test and see what's going on. And if Megan can add a link for that, we'd be very happy to get you the PDF out at no charge to you. but it's really, really useful. And I'm telling you that, the investment advisory business in this country, unlike most of the Western world, like the UK and Australia, where commissions have been banned for like 20 years or longer, I think the lobbies in this country are too strong and that won't happen. But there are two important parameters. How well trained is your advisor? Anna, to her credit, is a certified financial planner, and I know that her sites, on continuing education, not the least of which she's learning here just by being part of this of our organization. We're quite ambitious, as are Dylan's. But the basic license to be an investment advisor is relatively easy to obtain. I mean, a few weeks with no background, no college, not even a clean criminal record. It's really quite easy. And so that's the first thing. How much training do they have? And number two, what is the ethical framework? What's the relationship? Are they a fiduciary? Are they a broker? Or are they both? And I tell you, this last paper that I wrote, and I won't read you the whole thing, thank goodness, but we found that the biggest conflict, misconduct, what you think of as malpractice among financial advisors, is public. There's a lot of data out there, and we researched with my other, PhD team for this paper, every investment advisor in the United States, 620,000 actually, and we identified that those that have both commission licenses and a fiduciary license, so-called two-hat advisors, was the biggest indicator for reported malpractice. Fines, suspensions, customer complaints, and so forth. And it's easy to see why, right? If you think back to Jane and Russ, gee whiz, I'm a fiduciary, don't take any commissions, but except for that, there was an $80,000 commission. You can see how this might induce some mistrust and some complaints and so forth. Dylan, do you have any afterthoughts on that?
I mean, really, it's just being stringent, using broker check to make sure that'll really pop up anything that you'd have concerns about. There are a ton of clients that I talk to where they think they have a fiduciary or they only see one license, and then I actually go with them on broker check and I type up the person's name, and they have another license, or there's been a disclosure on their financial record, and just sort of going through the past, and so many people just don't know, and broker check's such a useful resource to really find that out and identify who you could just be seeing one license of, a dual hat advisor.
Yeah. And another thing they insist on is a fiduciary pledge in writing. I, XYZ advisor, promise to always act in your best interest and not accept any compensation whatsoever other than fully disclosed fees that the client understands and agrees to pay. And that keeps it clean. When we make investment recommendations, we have no self-interest in recommending one thing over another. The only thing we care about is what is best for the client. Doesn't mean we're always right. We're not perfect, though we think we're pretty smart. But it does mean there is not an ulterior motive to suggest something that may enrich us at our client's cost, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, folks, Camarda clients that are watching this, we know you know this, or we know you knew it. I don't know if you remember it, but it's important, because you probably will be approached by other advisors, and the odds are that these are either commission folks or they're dual hat advisors. Something like 92% of advisors in the U.S., and that's before you get into the whole life insurance annuity sales thing, which we'll have to save for an upcoming podcast. But something like 92% of advisors either are straight commission folks or they're duly licensed. Pure fiduciary, fee only, not fee-based. Fee-based means fees plus commissions, right? Does it sound like that? No, it sounds nice. Oh, it's based on fees. Well, that's just the beginning, right? Fee-only advisors are still relatively rare. We were quite a pioneer when we decided to go fee-only back in the 90s, but it's still, it's still certainly not the standard of the industry. So it's worth checking. So for you folks, Camarda clients, and others that are watching, I encourage you, please click the link or whatever this that Megan cooks up so you can get a copy of, heck, I'll say the whole book if you want that, just put that in the landing page via PDF. But at least get that report, how to screen for a smart advisor you can trust. It's written in a really easy, entertaining, very digestible fashion, and in about 15 minutes you'll know exactly what you need to do to keep things clean. So any concluding remarks?
I would just say, you, family, and friends that might interact with a financial advisor other than us, take a couple minutes, take Jeff's advice, and go through these questions that are going to be linked to see if who you or family and friends are working with is the right type of advisor, and if it's not, get with a fee-only firm such as ourselves. That would be my closing comments.
Which are rare, but I mean, there's more. Obviously, we're not the only one in the country, though. We think very well of ourselves. Dylan, you have any concluding remarks?
Yeah, absolutely. Sort of piggybacking off of what Anna said. Be careful. I mean, this is your livelihood. These people are professionals who are supposed to help you and make the best financial decisions for you and your family, and you want them to be protected. So take a few minutes, go through those questions, just so at the end of the day, you know what you're getting yourself into.
Because it's huge, and you won't get the money back. I tell you. I mean, you might. I've been succeeded in getting some pretty big settlements of insurance companies for abusive sales practices, but that's unusual. I mean, it's unusual. And I tell you, once, we're talking to a client yesterday, I said, you know what, and I'll call him Ben. Ben, if you gave $10 million to an annuity salesperson, you realize the commission could have been as high as $1.5 million. And I know, I used to sell stuff by the cartload before my education got to the point where I just couldn't make myself do it anymore. I get paid that commission next week. As soon as your check clears, mine's in the bank. And you're not getting it back, almost never. So be careful, because once you're all over the cliff, it's a long tumble down. Anyway, thank you so much for watching in this week's edition of Smarter Money Matters. And smarter money really does matter. It's so important in so many aspects of life. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.